wider discussion. Alison, Director of Middlemarch Community-Led Housing, member of the Devon Housing Commission. Thank you very much. And you're going to tell us more about community land trusts.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Best. So I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me a moment. Can you see that?
We can.
Super. Okay, so I work for a small social enterprise called Middlemarch Community-Led Housing. We're a community interest company, which means we're a not-for-profit organisation, and my teammates and my colleagues and I have been technical advisors to community land trusts since 2010. We set up working with Wessex community assets, and then the project grew, and we ended up setting up Middlemarch Community-Led Housing as the project grew, and our pipeline of projects that we're supporting grew. So it's just a little bit of background about us, and then I'll go into where we're working, what a community land trust is, how it might be able to help rural communities to deliver the homes that they're looking for, and give some examples of projects that we've been involved with, some of which you've been talking about and you've seen examples of already. So we're partnership workers, so we aim to work in collaboration with others to bring forward results and leverage the best of people's skills and abilities to bring forward a result that works for community groups. We work with Homes England, housing associations, local authorities, the National Community Land Trust Network, government, and we really only specialise in partnerships between community land trusts and housing associations. That's where all our expertise lie. So some community land trusts set up separately and they do all the work by themselves, the financing and the delivering of homes, as well as the planning. And there are examples of those, successful examples of those in Dorset. And another form of community-led housing you've heard about just then from Paul, co-housing. I'm not going to talk about that because we specialise in community land trusts specifically that partner with housing associations. This is where we work. So we work all across Dorset and Devon and Somerset. These dots are where we're working with community groups on community-led housing schemes. The blue dots are where a community land trust has completed its scheme, and there are local people living in those homes that they've built, and they're probably most of the community land trusts that we've worked with that have delivered a project are now looking at their second scheme or another project like a community shop or something like that. You know, what else can they do with their community land trust once they've delivered their project? The purple dots are where the community land trust has established and is some way on the process. You know, it may be looking for land, it may be seeking a housing association partner, it may be preparing a planning application, engaging with architects, ecologists, other professionals, that kind of thing. And one thing that you might note from this map is that many community land trusts come forward in national parks, coastal areas, national landscapes, what used to be known as AOMDs, talking about them a moment ago. Sometimes it's the only way to get affordable homes in local communities. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. So of this, in those blue dots, 200 completed homes with another 500 in the pipeline. We'd like to do more, but there are a few small blockages, big blockages. About a CLT, lots of people on this call will know what CLTs are inside out, but for those that might not, I'll just go over it in brief. A community land trust is a not-for-profit organisation, and it's set up to benefit a specific community. That might be a parish or it might be a pair of parishes. It depends on what the community wants as to what that definition is. A community land trust isn't a legal form in itself. It has to adopt one that meets the legal definition of a community land trust. Community land trusts can own land and other assets that are important to a community, and they're really well known for starting with an affordable home scheme for local people. They've got, you know, USP, unique selling point of affordable housing, but they don't have to do any housing at all. And I have worked with community land trusts that didn't do any housing. They were interested in the other stewardship and land management aspects of being a community land trust. Something that's very important to all of the groups that we work with is that community land trusts hold assets so they're available and affordable for future generations. Everywhere we go, we speak to people that have lost affordable homes in their communities to right to buy. And they quite rightly say, we're not going to put our time and energy into volunteering for a community land trust project if there's any chance that could happen. And so community land trusts are a mechanism for keeping homes and land affordable for the future generations rather than being subject to right to buy. And the last point just to note is that community land trusts are open to membership by anyone in the community supporting its aims. And this tends to happen. The community group will get together, set up a community land trust, a legal form, and then they'll go out to the community, say, look what we've done. We're looking at an affordable homes project. We're going to look for some land. We think there's housing need in this community. Would you join us as a member? And as a member, you could stand for the board if you want, and then the board will make the operational decisions of what happens to this community land trust and drive the project forward. And we help. Our job as advisors at Middlemarch is helping the community land trust to realise its ambitions. And we do that by providing technical assistance and brokering partnerships. So I mentioned a minute ago that community land trusts don't just do homes. They very, very often start with homes because there's a real need for that. But community groups that we talk to are, they're not interested in community land trusts because they like putting bricks on top of bricks, or they like the construction process. What they're really interested in is the sustainability and resilience of their place. They don't want their place to become a ghost town, a place that's empty in the winter months, a place where there isn't a shop, a place where the school roll number is falling, where the pub has had to close. They want their place to be a vibrant, resilient, sustainable place. And that's why they set up a community land trust. And that's why they're delivering an affordable homes for local people project, because they know that to keep local people in a place, people need housing, people need homes. But once they've got the community land trust set up, it's a vehicle for taking on other things, because you've got a legal form set up, you've got local people leading it, you've got members and support from the local community, you've got some track record because you've worked with the local authority, you've probably got good relationship with other partners, housing associations, developers, anybody else that can help you. So, and you've got a bank account, you've probably got a bit of money, you might have a revenue stream from the affordable homes that you've already delivered. And so you're in a great position to be able to take on other assets should the need arise. And we've seen this with community land trusts that we've worked with. That could be more land, community pub, community shop, community workspace, post office, allotments, whatever is important to that community. And the picture there is Tullochgorum Community Land Trust, who delivered 6 affordable homes for local people in their small village, and they'd really lost all of their amenities in the village of Tullochgorum. Don't know if anyone on the call today is from Tullochgorum, but the post office was being run at the time before the CRT project at the end of someone's house. It was damp, it wasn't fit for purpose. So the community, that was a real motivating factor for the community. We want to have a decent post office. We've lost all our other facilities in the village. So as part of the housing scheme, they stipulated they wanted a post office as well, which is what they have. And this picture here is their much better fit for purpose post office that also is a small community shop. So as an advisor, I'm always very impressed that local people give their time and energy so readily to community land trust projects, because it's a significant effort. We say it takes up to around about 6 years on average, start to finish, to deliver an affordable homes for local people project as a community land trust. And people might come and fall away as well on the community land trust board as that happens. But why do they bother? Why would you stick your head above the parapet about something as controversial potentially as building homes in a lovely rural place? And we find that people are often very, very passionate about building the right homes in the right places within their communities. They want affordable homes. They want to be in control of those decisions about where the affordable homes are going to be built. They don't want to leave it to somebody else to do. They want those homes to be protected from right to buy. If they're going to give precious land from their community up for housing, then they want to make sure it's really fulfilling a purpose for that place. And they want those homes to be prioritised for local people. They don't, that's the whole reason of putting their energy behind it. They want social rents, as Paul said. many CLTs want to have social rents because affordable rents are often deemed as too high for the people that they want to be housed there. So we work with them to find ways to make that happen. They want low carbon buildings. They're often really motivated by environmental concerns. They want things to look great. If they're going to have new homes in their communities, they want them to look right. They don't want to put their names to a project that everybody dislikes. Almost always when I go to a community and I talk to them about what the housing situation is like there, they point to a scheme that was built, maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago that everyone hates. And they're like, not like that, something completely different to that. So they make sure that happens because they're putting their names to it. And they want local support. I've been to communities as well where housing has divided the community and pitted neighbour against neighbour. And whereas you're never, ever going to get everybody in a rural community to agree about housing, a community-led approach will ensure that you get more people supportive of it because you're delivering what the community really wants and you are the people that are leading it are actually from the community. So they're not going to put their names to something that their friends and neighbours hate. So this is just going to talk a little bit, it's just a little bit technical about how the model that we find most popular with community land trusts, the community groups that we talk to works. Whoops, sorry, just go back. So the community land trust sets up, shapes the project, takes all those key decisions about how the project, where the homes should be built, how many homes should there be, what is the tenure of the homes, are they going to be social rent or shared ownership? And then they look for a housing association partner because although they want to have that influence over where homes are built and numbers and aesthetics, they don't, if we're working with them, they're community groups that don't want to go through the process of raising large amounts of finance and also being responsible for the construction process. They would rather find a partner to take care of that side of things. And so they work together with a housing association. They choose a sympathetic housing association to work with. Not all housing associations are interested in doing this, but there is a small number that are to get planning consent. And then the community land trust becomes the freehold owner of the planning of the scheme, and the housing association has a long-term lease with the community land trust, which enables the housing association to raise the finance to build the homes. You access Homes England funding for socially rented homes, and then homes are let in line with an allocation plan that this community land trust has agreed, so they can prioritise local people. And then the freehold is with the community land trust in perpetuity. So that's in a nutshell how the model that most of the community land trusts we work with use. And these are the principles behind it. The community land trust is the leader of the project and the housing association has to follow them, which is why not all housing associations are interested in doing this. But then the community land trust can advocate for the scheme, and the housing association takes the risks in terms of raising the finance. Community land trust owns the land and the housing association builds the homes. And the community land trust brings authenticity to the process because they get really deep into the weeds of what the project's going to be like, and they really have to understand it and lead it and drive it forward, and then can rely on the experience of the housing association to actually deliver it. The community land trust gets an income from the land, from the ground rent, and the housing association gets an asset, the long hold lease, which they can borrow against to fulfill their obligations. And these are some of the logos of the community land trusts that I've worked with. And I really like this slide because it just shows a little bit of the character of the community groups that we work with. It's usually a very big decision getting the logo right, and it reflects those places. And these are the supportive housing associations to community land trusts that we've worked with to date, ones that are prepared to let the communities take the lead. And be supportive in that way. Just got a few statistics here about where the community land trusts that we work with have been successful. 69% are in areas of outstanding natural beauty or national landscapes, national parks, heritage coasts, conservation areas, or green belts, places that are really hard to develop homes. 93% are rural, mostly rural exception sites. 90% are small, under 2 acres. Average is probably 10, 15 homes. 83% are 100% affordable. 73% for social rent, and pretty much all the schemes coming forward that we're working with now are all social rent. And 100% of them are going to be owned by CLTs and managed by RPs. For Dorset in the national picture, so Devon is out in the lead in terms of the number of community land trusts, but Dorset is coming up really with a lot of community land trusts compared to the rest of the country. It's a leader in the delivery of community land trusts. And these are some of the examples of community land trusts that are popping up in Dorset. So these are all completed schemes, and there's more coming through the pipeline. So just got some examples of community land trusts in Dorset. It's been mentioned already, the Power Stock scheme, so I won't spend ages going on about it, but it was a really tricky scheme to deliver because it had so many planning constraints. It's a real example of how a community group would pick a site that nobody else would pick in a million years. It was down a long access road. The site had sitting tenants on it. It was overlooked by a scheduled monument, an area of outstanding natural beauty, conservation area. No other developer would have bothered in a million years to have considered it, but the community knew it was the right place to build homes. So they pushed it forward. Got their 8 homes there. And I like this photo. The King opened this project. So this is me and my colleague and the architect meeting the King, along with Vanessa, the chair of Power Stock and District Community Land Trust. I'm going to talk now about Broad Windsor Group Parish Community Land Trust. 15 affordable homes in Dorset in a national landscape. Coming forward at the same time as a neighbourhood plan. This is a picture, I think you've seen a picture already on Paul's slides of this project too. Completed, built now, 15 local people, families living in this development. And one of the lovely things about this particular CLT is that the community really got engaged in it. So they're alongside the delivery of the affordable homes and driving forward that project, the community land trust involved the wider community in some different ways. For example, commissioning a piece of artwork that reflected the community land trust aspirations there. You can see it. It's by a local artist, Jenny Black, and you can see there the tree that's in the middle of the site that they've kept. The Community Land Trust also used some of the waste materials from the site to, distribute around the community, do things like hedgehog houses for gardens, and did a photographic record of what happened, and commissioned some benches from a local blacksmith as well, metal worker. Going to talk about Lyme Regis. Everybody probably knows Lyme Regis and can understand the particular issues this community faces. Really, really high land values, a lot of hope value, because it's a very attractive place for tourists to visit, combined with some physical problems. Well, depending on your perspective, but bordered by sea on 2 sides, which obviously affects the land you can be looking at, and literally land crumbling away in some areas, so in unstable conditions. And it meant for 10 years there were no affordable homes built in Lyme Regis, and really the only option for that community was a community land trust. And unfortunately, their site such couldn't turn up, a rural exception site, because of these extreme difficulties in finding a site. And so it did find, through its extensive search and our support, this particular site here. You can see it in yellow, and it's not an exception site because it's not adjacent to the development boundary. It's sort of one field apart, so it's actually not compliant with planning policy. It was a departure from the plan, but it was the only option. So the Community Land Trust took it forward, and it was recommended for refusal. It had to be, because it was against policy. There was no option, but the members overturned that, and it was granted consent by 11 votes to 1. Local community members came out and spoke in support of the project. you know, saying if not here, well, where are we going to get affordable homes for local people if we don't put them here? This is a project in partnership with ABRE Housing, and there's a picture of some of the completed homes here. And this is a particular favourite of mine. This is a picture of local people that moved into the houses in Lyme Regis that were developed by the Community Land Trust. And it's what, you know, that's what it was really about, making sure that local people were able to access the homes that but that they couldn't in any other way. Lyme Regis now CLT now looking for their next housing project. As I said, many of the Community Land Trusts that we work with are now looking for subsequent projects, be it working on their community shop or looking at new land for homes, or setting up other schemes. Like one Community Land Trust that we're working with is delivering a small grant scheme for local people. You know, if the local person needs a new cooker or a school uniform, or the Amateur Dramatic Society needs a grant, then the Community Land Trust has some income that it can provide for that. So this is just my final slide now. And it's a montage of some of the Community Land Trust schemes that we've been involved in supporting. What we always say is this might not be what you would consider to be the ideal homes in your community, but this is what these communities wanted. They drove it forward and worked with architects and got the designs they wanted, obviously compromising along the way where they had to, and also not compromising on some of the things that they felt they couldn't compromise on. So that is my final